Welcome to Reading Tips Tuesday, and today we're going to talk about a really tough issue, and it's negative reviews. I hate writing negative reviews. I love books. I love authors, and so when I feel like I have to write a negative review, it's never easy. I mean, I know what it's like for somebody to say negative things about my books. I've had a couple that I'm just like, almost not quite, just like, that's like my kid. Don't say something negative about my kid. Not that it's the same thing, but it feels almost like they're saying something negative against you. And I think reviewers need to remember there is a human on the other end of that book who took the time, the effort, and had the courage to place it out there for other people to love, to hate, to discuss, to dissect. And sometimes it's so easy, especially when we're looking at a screen, to forget that on the other end of that screen is another person who's looking at the screen who doesn't know you but sees those words. And authors need to remember it took a lot of courage for you to put that out there. And yes, people should respect that. But also remember, there are going to be people, no matter what you publish, they will absolutely adore it. And no matter what you publish, there will be people who absolutely detest it. And no other branch probably has that strong polarizing effect as Christian fiction. Because I don't think there's an author who is a Christian who doesn't go through somebody picking up and slamming it for no other reason than they picked it up and somehow missed, even though it was right there in the description, that it was Christian fiction. And it's hard. Or reviewers, sometimes you pick up a book and it looked good and you may feel bad, but you missed that thing in the paragraph that it had such and such in it. And you have to put something in your review. But it's not fun. So how do you write a negative book review that remembers that there's a human on the other end but is also honest? So today we're going to talk about that. I don't like writing negative reviews, but I've done it several times, and I'm going to tell you about it. Start with two stories that were kind of rough learning experiences for me. The first one had nothing to do with me. Not really, but I got caught in the crossfire. A friend of mine read a book that was going around. A lot of people were saying very positive things about it, but where there was a scene in it that was very disturbing to her. And she posted a review on Goodreads. If I remember correctly, she said something about it being disturbed that the author would put that in there and put it in the Christian fiction section, which I'm about to tell you why that's not the best way to present that fact. But important to include the fact that that was in there. And I posted a thing that said just supporting her because she was very discouraged because she was getting a lot of hate people, especially fellow authors of this person ganging up and telling her why she shouldn't do that. When I posted the thing to report, suddenly about 10 reviews, both on Amazon and Goodreads, appeared on my published work, saying how terrible it was, how unchristian it was. Almost some of them felt like they copied and pasted stuff from my friend's review and posted it on mine. So it was pretty, and it was the same women who were arguing with my friend. So there was some ganging up, and it was really tough to go through, but it taught me some valuable lessons. Number one, be careful how you word your support and what reviews you support. Two, avoid certain authors that are prone to pulling people into their little circle of frustration. And three, don't become one of those that's obsessively following around and arguing with your reviewers. Then another one I had is that this was actually a tough one, but also very positive. There was a fantasy book that one of the homeschooled authors actually published, and I had heard about how good it was. I don't normally read fantasy, but a lot of my friends were reading it, even some ones that are more of discerning nature and when it comes to fantasy, so I decided to try it. I ended up giving it 3 stars and saying that the reason I was giving it is the author had a lot of talent. I read the whole book, which was a real credit because I had trouble with quite the amount of magic that was in it, and especially that the good guys were using it. I got a lot of very angry comments, and obviously some of those of you who've chosen not to read magic know that it's not a very popular stance. And a lot of you who do read magic probably are wondering, A, why I read the book, and B, why it would be a problem. But for that, right now, we're going to set that aside. I actually received a comment that told me that, that it wasn't fair to the author. I contacted the author. We didn't have a lot of communication, but because she was listed on Homeschooled Authors, I knew how to get a hold of her. And I just told her, I wrote the book review. I debated about it, actually, but I wrote the review because I knew that there were several people who were thinking about reading it who wouldn't be happy about what they found, and I felt like I could present that to them that they wouldn't want to read it. But, there is positive stuff. She actually was thrilled by the review. She said she had been honored that I picked it up because she knew that I didn't read it, and she thought it was a very fair review. So I left it up, and I got hate comments for several. I may still be getting them on Amazon. I finally turned it off so I don't get any of the comments for that review, but on Amazon. But and I learned something very valuable in that. One, authors can see the value in negative reviews often. Two, there is a really good way to write negative reviews in such a way that both authors and readers appreciate them. 3, you're always going to make some people mad when you hate on a book, or I didn't really hate on it, but when you choose to write negatively about a book that they love, you're going to make some people upset. 4, it's important to always be honest with your reviews. So, writing negative reviews, there are some very important guidelines. And I'm going to start with the reviewers. I'm thinking that probably we'll do a second think about writing negative reviews because I'm looking at the time and I don't like these videos to go over 10 minutes. So, but number 1 for reviewers, don't make any personal assumptions or attacks. As we talked about before, there is a person on the other end of that screen and on the other end of that book who had the courage to write that and to put it out there for everyone. And when I say don't make personal assumptions, things like they're not a Christian, they probably dress funny, they don't know what they're talking about. Some of those may be true. It's not that those are necessarily wrong, but putting those in a review automatically puts a lot of people on defensive. And quite frankly, it's totally unnecessary. You can make a good negative point without being personal. Avoiding personal attacks. 1, I honestly think if you look biblically, it's just there. Making personal attacks, especially people you don't know, or even people you do, that's just slander. And the Bible has a lot to say about slander. 2, do be honest. Don't feel pressured into saying things you like about a book, as saying that you like a book or feel more for it than you actually did. 3, when you go to write the review, take a breath, especially ones that invoke really strong emotion. It's important not to write the final review in the heat of that emotion. You don't want your anger to control you. That's another biblical principle. You don't want your anger sin, and that's usually when those personal attacks come out, when that anger takes hold, is when you're writing right after you finish it, and you go, oh my goodness. And it's just like, oh, this book. taking a few minutes to just, or even a couple of days, especially for a book review that, is going to be negative. Number 4, one of the things also to remember when writing a negative review is negative can help both the future readers and the author. It is tough to give that negative review, but one of the things you need to remember as you're doing it is to be honest so that you can help that other reader who would find it even more disturbing than you to avoid it. And the author, though some of them will get not really happy about that negative review, it will actually help them because that person will avoid it and they'll avoid getting another negative review. And also, whether authors like to believe this or not, negative reviews help them not only to avoid other readers, but also just for people to know that not all the reviews are pulled from friends and family, because even though friends, family, fellow authors, and these book reviewers are often very honest, often those negative reviews are what add legitimacy to those reviews, other reviews. So we're really running over time today. Next week I'm gonna talk about just some other things for both writers of reviews and readers to keep in mind when doing negative reviews.